Mike is a friend of mine. He's someone who served his country before coming into Parliament. He's someone I have an enormous amount of respect for. My view is that, as a very junior minister myself, we work as a team, and I would always work with my Secretary of State. And if my Secretary of State was Shabana Mahmood, that would be even more so, because she is a formidable Home Secretary.
One of these sites, the MOD Linton-on-Ouse, it's in a very small village, population of sort of around 1,000 people. 4 years ago, the government tried to do exactly this, use that military base, but there was significant protest from residents who said they don't want this. They thought it wasn't democratic. They said the village didn't have the resources to look after all these extra people. And Ben Wallace withdrew the site to the Home Office, realised this wasn't a fight that was worth trying to push on with. What's going to be different this time?
Well, we're looking at exploring whether we can use these sites, but we are absolutely clear as a government that it's completely unacceptable to have a situation as we had under the last government, where we have 400 hotels across our country being used to house migrants with a huge amount of cost to the British taxpayer. Now, we as a government have made it abundantly clear that that is not an acceptable position. We've now closed over half of those hotels, and today we're announcing we're making further progress.
And so what you're announcing is these new military bases. So have you sought sort of planning permission, proper local consultation in Bicester, in Suffolk and in North Yorkshire, where you're planning to open these military bases?
Look, of course, we have to engage with planning regulations, the planning process, and engage with local communities as well. But we as a government have made a decision, it's a policy decision, that the situation that we inherited with 400 hotels across our country causing huge tensions in communities, which we've seen break out quite dangerously at times over the last few years, is just wholly unacceptable. And we've made a commitment to close them. Now, look, we don't want to be using military bases to house illegal migrants and migrants who come here illegally. We are dealing with our border security. We're bringing down the numbers of boat crossings, down 40% on last year. We have deported over 70,000 people who shouldn't be here since the last election. That's the highest figure in over a decade. So
Minister, we're slightly short on time, and I'm so sorry to interject. Just could you tell us at least how many people you'll be, because you're moving people, aren't you, from hotels into military bases? That's the plan. How many will you be moving, for example, into Linton-on-Ouse?
Well, the 5 military sites that we've identified and we're looking into using would house around 3,500 migrants. It is part of a solution of closing down these hotels and overall bringing down the numbers of people who want to come here and seek to come here illegally. That's government policy. We are determined to tackle the small boat crisis and secure our borders and deal with the completely untenable and broken asylum system that we inherited from the Conservatives.
A couple of other things I want to talk to you about. As you've probably heard in the introduction to our programme, one of your colleagues, Mike Tapp, wrote an article for The Times yesterday making the case that foreign care workers should be exempt from the upcoming immigration reforms that Shabana Mahmood is going to announce next week. The Home Office are pretty furious about this. First of all, is Mike Tapp making a sensible case?
Well, look, what's happening here is there is a consultation that the Home Secretary set out last year about exactly the details of immigration rules and the asylum system that we are reforming over the coming months. That consultation is continuing. The Home Secretary will set out the plans over the next few weeks. Mike's article in The Times sets out what his views are and some of the issues that he in the Home Office is exploring. It's not particularly wise in my mind for junior ministers to kind of set that out publicly. We are part of a team, but he has done that and we will deal with that as a government. But ultimately, look, Shabana Mahmood is the Home Secretary. She'll be setting out her position in due course.
Yeah, you're assistant party whip, so your job is about instilling party discipline. You say it wasn't wise for Mike Tapp to write that article without seeking permission from his boss, Shabana Mahmood. Is it a sackable offence?
Well, look, that's up to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister makes decisions as to whether ministerial code or collective responsibility is broken. Look, Mike is a friend of mine. He's someone who served his country before coming into Parliament. He's someone I have an enormous amount of respect for. My view is that, as a very junior minister myself, we work as a team, and I would always work with my Secretary of State, and if my Secretary of State was Shabana Mahmood, that would be even more so, because she is a formidable Home Secretary.
But Shabana Mahmood's argument is that he should be sacked. She said, we've asked the Prime Minister he should be fired, and the Prime Minister's saying no.
Well, I haven't heard Shabana Mahmood say that anywhere, actually. And,
so a source close to Mahmood, I want to make sure I'm really clear with you, to be fair. A source close to Mahmood told The Times Mike Tapp is expected to be sacked for breaching the ministerial code. He's taken possible ideas that the Home Secretary and her team were working on and briefed them as his own to try and win a job in the new administration. Is it appropriate to brief that someone should be fired without speaking to them first?
Well, with respect, I don't take sources close to Shabana Mahmood in the media as her word. I take my word from Shabana Mahmood, who I know and respect hugely. Look, I think what's happened here is that you have Mike exploring ideas, exploring what the reform and modernisation programme should be. It perhaps is unwise to do that in public, and perhaps that should have been done more privately.
What's happening is he's freelancing, isn't he? Because he's quite keen to think, 4 weeks from today, we are expecting Andy Burnham being the Prime Minister. Has there not been this sort of total evaporation of loyalty in government right now, which is why your colleagues feel very able to do things that you deem unwise, because they're thinking not about this current leadership, they're thinking about what comes next?
We're clearly in an unusual moment in our politics, where the Prime Minister has resigned on Monday, just a few days ago, and it's quite clear that his replacement will be taking over in the next few weeks. Now, that is unusual. We need to undertake that interregnum period with some calm. I think everyone needs to take a deep breath and ensure that we work collectively as a team for the interests of the country. And I'm sure that's what Mike will do. As I said before, he's someone who served his country before with great distinction, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that as a minister and as a member of Parliament.
Final thing, your constituency is in Rother Valley. It's near Sheffield, an area I know I'm quite familiar with. There's been sort of a conversation right now about where the sort of centre of government should be. Should there be a government HQ, a sort of mini Westminster in the north, and where should it be?
Well, I'm really pleased that the new Prime Minister, when he takes over, is going to be a champion for the North. And that must not just be the North West, that needs to be places like South Yorkshire as well. In fact, we've got a lot of government work in Sheffield, a Home Office, a centre of the Home Office, a centre for the DWP. So look, I'm always a champion for making sure that government represents the North, and in particular South Yorkshire, and any mechanism of doing that, I'll get behind.
Thank you very much for your time. That is Jake Richards, MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State in the Ministry of Justice.